So it's officially September, which means more than likely we're set to get a Nintendo Direct sometime soon. If there's 1 month to bet on when it comes to Directs, it's September. And on top of that, we didn't even get like a big E3 summer Direct, so there's surely plenty to reveal and talk about. So I want to discuss some predictions on the likely upcoming Nintendo Direct, what I think we might see, as well as what I'd like to see. Let's start with the thing that fans are probably hoping to see the most, the most requested thing I always see, and that's Nintendo Labo 2, or like a 2.0. It's time to expand on this amazingly successful line. I want to build more shit out of flimsy cardboard. PlayStation has their PlayStation 5 VR coming out. Let's make the Labo VR a reality. Let's strap the Switch onto kids' faces and hit them with some 200p VR experiences. That'd be phenomenal. And let's just go crazy with it. I want bigger, more complex things. Let's get some Labo cars on the road. Take Elon Musk to task. With the way the rents are going these days, I'm going to need a Labo house sooner than later. Man, you want to talk about, people are always calling each other in this community like haters, shills, fanboys, stuff like that. If you want to really identify a Nintendo fanboy, a straight-up shill, anybody who unironically hyped Labo up, saying like this is some big groundbreaking thing, there you go. I mean, I don't think it was possible to be anything but a blind fanboy or a shill. Okay, let's get into the serious stuff. Well, at least the more real stuff. Many of you may have forgotten about this. I haven't gone a single minute without thinking about it. The Super Mario movie was first talked about, I believe it was actually at the September Nintendo Direct last year. And we have still, it was originally supposed to come out this holiday, got delayed. We still have seen nothing for it. Could we possibly see not only a trailer, but a trailer with some of that sweet, sweet Mario dialogue? Yes, that is the thing I am waiting to see with this movie. I am someone who is pretty up in arms about them just passing right over Charles Martinet. And I've heard all the complaints. Oh, what, you just want him to be like, yeah, woohoo, yippee, like for an hour and a half? No, I actually believe this guy could change things around a little bit. He was just in a Dragon Ball movie, apparently, that went to theaters. But, for some reason, everybody thinks he can only do, like, one-liners from the games. I personally thought, regardless, this guy who has been working with the character for decades was a better choice. But no, many of you, again, we're going to see this, think that Chris Pratt, apparently, is God's gift to voice acting. Chris Pratt, who said in an interview that his Mario voice is, quote, unlike anything you've heard. Which I always love this. I love when you take a character, again, with decades of history and just you throw it all in the trash and go, no, we're going to do something totally different. That never fails and falls right on its face. So I am so, if we could finally see this, that would honestly be the thing, believe it or not, that I'd like to see the most. Out of all of the video game things Nintendo could show, no, I want to see the goddamn Mario trailer and be blown away, like everyone on the internet says I'm going to be, by Chris Pratt, and see why just Charles Martinet would have never could have come close to the glory that Chris Pratt is going to bring to this role. But let's shift over into talking about some actual video game stuff. We'll likely get some updates on some of the games that are set to release still this year. Titles like Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Bayonetta 3, which I would like to see a more lengthy look at Bayonetta 3, like, not necessarily as much of a trailer, but more of like a longer cut of just straight gameplay, I think would be nice. Maybe something like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet shows up. Can't go wrong with pushing what'll probably be the biggest game of the year even harder. But there is one big game that was supposed to come out this year that was delayed into 2023 that I believe many would like to see a more in-depth look at, and that's obviously Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel to Breath of the Wild. You want to finally give us the actual title, Nintendo, so we don't have to keep saying that. I mean, is that too much info? This, yeah, should get something more in-depth. Have Aonuma, somebody come up, talk about plot a little bit, some of the new mechanics. We got teases in the trailers before of, like, there's some weird stuff going on with Link and the Master Sword. There's that ability that let him, like, phase through walls and stuff. And we also need a date for it. With it, again, originally planned for 2022, I'd assume this is going to be earlier on in 2023. I think they said spring. Like when they had the trailer that announced the delay, I think they said spring 2023. The dates can't always change as this did originally, but I'd guess they'd try to put it around the anniversary of the first game. Sometime in March, I think, makes sense. Earlier spring, basically, which would also be a huge kickoff to the 2023 lineup. I mean, getting a monster title like that earlier in the year would definitely set them up for success for the rest of the year. And when it comes to Zelda, I think this is where we could have a little last-minute 2022 surprise. I would not be shocked to see Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD finally make it over. Am I excited about that when they're probably going to be $60 again on the Switch? No. If they combined them into like a 2-pack for $60 for some random reason, yeah, I'm on that all day. Separate, I'm probably not even going to buy them, honestly. I can't anymore with these overpriced Wii U ports. I'm over it. Like, I really want to play X on Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Switch, but I ain't paying $60 for it. I'm done. I'm done with those. So, I mean, doesn't that just seem crazy that, say this did happen, say we got Wind Waker HD, right, at the end of this year for $60, and it's the same thing from the Wii U, like the exact same game, no extra enhancements, anything like that, just the same HD release. Then maybe simultaneously, but even if it's like a couple months later, they hit us with the same thing with Twilight Princess, straight port for $60, and then just a couple months after that, it's Breath of the Wild 2 for $60? I mean, even for it, I know there are a ton of diehard Nintendo fans out there, diehard Zelda fans even, but possibly asking people to pony up like $180 in Zelda games in the course of possibly less than like a 6-month period? And I'm not saying they won't sell, but that just seems pretty extreme, even for, again, the people who are extreme about this. So, yeah, I would really hope if we are getting Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, they're a reduced price. Like I said, bundle 30 and 30. I would do individual, I guess, maybe 40. It's one of those situations where it's like, I'd bite the bullet and do it. I wouldn't be like excited, like, oh my gosh, what a great deal at 40, but I could see it being justified. Include like, what was it, that like the Twilight Princess stuff that was like locked behind the amiibo? Maybe we can include that in the game now, not make everybody go out and find a Wolf Link amiibo to play all the contents of the game. Nintendo, could you maybe give us that? Yeah, so it's like, I'd be happy to see these games finally make it over, but not at $60. And part of this, like, you guys who are into this, you want to be pissed off at somebody why we're like never going to see GameCube games come over to, you know, we never saw them on the Virtual Console, and we're not going to see them on Nintendo Online. Blame the people who are going to pay $60 for GameCube games in 2022. Why would Nintendo set up GameCube for NSO when idiots are going to pay $60 for Wind Waker and then $60 for Twilight Princess and possibly $60 for another game I'm going to talk about in a second? Besides Breath of the Wild 2, there's another big game we've been waiting even longer for an update for. In fact, the original Breath of the Wild 1 was only a few months old when this game was announced, if you can believe it. Yeah, we gotta talk about Metroid Prime 4. How crazy is it to think this game was teased all the way back at E3 2017? The first year the Switch was on the market, again, only a few months old, and we've still seen nothing for it. It's got to be time to share some news on this soon. The internet would erupt if we finally got a trailer with some actual gameplay, this game has been through so much drama. You don't want it to start feeling like a Duke Nukem Forever, something like that. So it'd be nice to finally see something and have it be impressive. I have no doubts with Retro handling it now that it's going to be great. I mean, this is something that I'm expecting nothing less than one of the best Nintendo Switch games. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I think it'll turn out great, but man, I would just love to see some sort of update for it. And with gameplay, like with how long it's been since that last tease, like another tease, basically a cinematic trailer, that's not good enough, dude. For a game that was announced in 2017. I don't care about the restarting production, any of that. It's gameplay time. Also, I think, and I've said this many times before, even when we got that original trailer, that they should, show a new trailer, something for this game, and also announce a Prime Trilogy HD collection that comes out before it. That, I think it's just almost too obvious of a route. There are rumors that apparently they're only releasing the first game again on the Switch, or they're planning to, just Metroid Prime, which, if it's just like a remaster and it's just Prime 1, I'm going to be salty about that. You're definitely going to be hearing some rants. If they're doing more of a full-on remake, I guess I'd understand only having like one game at a time. Surely I'd want them to continue and do the other two games, but even in that instance, like if we end up getting full-on like remakes of the Prime games, still the point of this would be to let people get caught up on the story before 4 releases. So, if 2 and 3 come much later, that's not really going to work either. So it's like if they put out Prime 1, it helps, but you've certainly got a big chunk missing between 1 and 4. And when you figure that 2 of these games originally released on the GameCube, and they all haven't been released again since the Wii, many players certainly haven't played them before. You stack on top of that, Dread is like the best-selling Metroid game of all time. So, yeah, you definitely have a lot of new fans coming on board here. So, yeah, it would just be insane, in my opinion, to not put this stuff out. But certainly when it comes to supporting old games, not at all out of the realm of possibility when it comes to Nintendo. If they hate anything, it's letting us play the old games. Which, speaking of, let's talk about some other classic game potential. September is also Nintendo Online subscription renewal time. The subscriptions that started when the service initially went live are coming up, and so this is when we typically get new announcements for it. There was that leak a while back that emulators for the Game Boy popped up with an update. Could we be in store for that announcement? Man, I hope so. If they brought a solid lineup of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and GBA games over, that could get me to upgrade to the higher tier, as long as they didn't introduce like another tier or increase the price of the expansion pack. Because, I'm still at the peasant level, sticking by what I said. I'm not trying to support the Nintendo Online at its current price point, considering the offerings. I think it's not at all good enough. But some great classic handheld titles could help with that. Again, bringing back Metroid, the missing piece of the 2D puzzle, Fusion, would be awesome to get that on there, so people could go all the way from 1 to Dread. Zero Mission, you may as well throw that on there as well. Yeah, there are a ton of classic Game Boy games I'd love to be able to easily play on the Switch, especially from the GBA era, because, a lot of those early Game Boy Color, I know especially for some of you younger people who aren't nostalgic for them, they're a little bit rough, but GBA games were pretty much like Super Nintendo quality. Of course, there's always the possibility, if they decided to go this route, that they could finally give us a localization, an official localization of the ever-so-elusive Mother 3. But the big get here would be, and I brought this up when I covered the leak initially, something that I believe would get tons of people to throw money at this service. Like I said, the Switch is coming up on 6 years old. Would be sick to finally get some good Pokemon games on here, don't you think? Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. The list is huge for the core games. I mean, when you get into the spin-offs, like Pinball and everything, forget about it. But yeah, focusing on the core games, just getting 1 or 2. Like I said, you could start with Red and Blue. Gen 1, the best gen anyway. Even if that's not going to make anybody mad. It would send the signal that they're going to build out and surely get more on there. Like, if you are going to do Game Boy and you are going to put some Pokemon games on there, I'd get anything on there ASAP, because people are going to sub in anticipation of the ones they like coming over. Again, if you aren't a fan of Red and Blue Gen 1, those pop up on there, you're going to assume, like, hey, well, they're probably going to keep going with this. And, if I like, one of the later games on GBA, for instance, that'll probably end up showing up. I think that would just be massive, especially if they made it so the games could communicate with Pokemon Home, so you could carry Pokemon all the way from Gen 1 through the current games. That'd be, I think, easily the biggest thing they've done with the service. And it's really not that crazy or that big of an ask. It's just, when you're dealing with Nintendo Online, and Pokemon, Game Freak, those two things, I mean, yeah, you're talking, you got to have the lowest of low expectations in that case. But, yeah, it'd be amazing. Big subscription seller, too. I'd guarantee that. My only concern with introducing new systems, though, as has been proven time and time again now, is how does this affect the current console offerings? N64 brought SNES and NES editions almost to a complete halt. Extremely rare, the trickling out of those games now. And N64, the games are what? You get like one a month? So what happens if they add more consoles? If that stuff wasn't happening, I wouldn't have much of a problem to begin with if we were getting a more steady flow of these games coming out. So, they'd need to have a solid lineup to start with here at least. But yeah, there are a lot of options to go with if they end up adding some of the other Game Boy stuff. Beyond that, in terms of a big new game surprise, because I think it's, we're at time for that too. Even if they did show Breath of the Wild and Metroid Prime, it's like, those are games we've known about for a long time. It's time to also start, teasing some other stuff. There are always a ton of franchises I'd love to see make a comeback. F-Zero, Kid Icarus, Golden Sun, etc. Honestly, at this point, F-Zero bros, Captain Falcon, the meme is real. There's these running gags for games like Fortnite with, Goku now, the guy from Fortnite. That's reality for Captain Falcon. He's that guy from Smash Brothers. That's it. Mario Kart sells a bazillion copies a day. Nintendo's not wasting their time with an F-Zero, okay? It's done. It's dead. Get over it. Move on. Equip your little F-Zero kart in Mario Kart 8 and play on the Big Blue track, and that's it. That's your F-Zero. Learn to love it. But there are two specifically that I feel like they've been put on the back burner for quite a while when you consider how big of franchises they are for Nintendo, and those are Star Fox and Donkey Kong, especially Donkey Kong. Both of these franchises' last outings were on the Wii U. Yeah, you had Tropical Freeze get re-released on the Switch with the Funky Kong. Oh, it's like a whole new game now. That's why it needs a $10 Funky Kong tax on top of the original price. But it seems particularly wild to me, given these franchises' histories, being ones I'd consider to be pretty high up there in the Nintendo franchise hierarchy. Again, the other ones I mentioned have been dormant longer, certainly, but I also don't think they're as big as these two. Would I love to see F-Zero? Yes. Kid Icarus, Golden Gun? Absolutely, that I'd go nuts. But, in terms of like how big of an IP these are, going many years without a new F-Zero is very different than like if they went many years without a new Mario game. And I'd put these franchises not on Mario's level, but I think they're closer to Mario than they are to F-Zero. In terms of what I'd like to see from a new entry in either of these franchises, Donkey Kong will start with, I think it's time to go back to 3D. It'd actually be cool, again, the online subscription stuff, Nintendo. Here's a free idea for you. When you want to keep people subscribed, announce a new 3D Donkey Kong and pair it with the dropping of Donkey Kong 64 onto the online service. There you go. Get hyped for a new 3D Donkey Kong. Go back and play the original. But yeah, I think bringing back the 3D is the way to go. I would do it just like Mario Odyssey. Have the separate worlds you zone into with stuff to collect. I'd have it just like in the 64 game where you have multiple Kongs to play as and they're all suited for different tasks. Honestly, I would take the base of Donkey Kong 64, but make a Mario Odyssey game around it. I think that would be phenomenal. Now, Star Fox, I think, needs a more significant change, especially going off of the Wii U one, Star Fox Zero, which I actually like. One of the few games that did anything interesting with the gamepad. I know a lot of you people don't want to admit that, but it's true. It's like, oh, well, this game, you could look at the map and access your menu in it. Yeah, like every Wii U game did this. Star Fox Zero actually did interesting things with the gamepad. Certainly not for everybody, but it was definitely different. But I think that arcadey style, it's kind of run its course, especially if you're going to have a big AAA game. If you're going to do that, I think you got to go open world, open galaxy, essentially. I actually think there were some cool ideas in Starlink, which had the Star Fox crossover on Switch. The Toys to Life gimmick is a big part of what, screwed that whole thing up. But yeah, that was like open world. I loved in that game how you could seamlessly enter and exit the planets, going from like on the ground up into space and vice versa. Such a cool visual. I'd lift that exactly as it is from that game. And again, this was on Switch, so it's totally doable. The problem with open world games, though, and I'm a big critic of this, is they often feel empty, bland, they're just not very interesting. So I think what you need to do is have, again, open space where you can fly around in, come down to the planets, fly around them as well. But you still need levels that are more akin to classic Star Fox, stuff that's meticulously built with set piece moments in that. You can have areas on the planets where you maybe you zone in to these levels separately, like, oh, you got to fly over this, base area, and it's like you start the mission or whatever. Plus, you want to be able to use different vehicles, like the Landmaster. Actually, it'd be cool if, you unlock that. Say you only have your R-Wing initially, and then you do, a Landmaster mission, and that unlocks it. So, when you go to planets, you can drive around freely on the Landmaster. That'd be sick. But, yeah, I think you need to kind of combine some of those classic Fox elements. Because that's the thing, too. A lot of people who are big fans of Star Fox like being able to have the time attack, score attack type play. So if you had some stages that you still zoned into, you could have the whole a score and everything like that, and people could try to have their best run and stuff like that with it. But also have people kind of being able to just explore a big open galaxy. I think that's what you'd have to do. Either of these two franchises, Star Fox or Donkey Kong, I think it's time for a new entry, and either would be perfect as a one more thing type tease. And they could also be, one of the big titles for next year. I think with the way the setup is right now, you would think Breath of the Wild is obviously going to come earlier in the year, and then Prime 4 hopefully is coming at the end of next year. But you could stick something like that in there, and you could have it be more of a tease and hit us with the 2024, or not even show a date, just a tease. I think it would work. I think it'd be cool. And while this may all seem like a lot, as I said at the top, once more, we didn't get the big E3 Nintendo Direct this year, so I don't think it's crazy to expect a lot out of this potential September Direct. It's been a while since we've gotten some, big first-party Nintendo news. And yeah, like what I said with them teasing something like, say, a Donkey Kong or a Star Fox, even if they showed us stuff for Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4, which are massive monster titles, those are also two titles we've known about for a long time. So even if we get updates for both of those, I still think it's time for them to start getting us hyped for some new stuff. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the very likely upcoming Nintendo Direct in the comments. What do you expect to see from a new Nintendo Direct? What would you like to see? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.